It's Tuesday, July 23. Good afternoon. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. If you're watching online at onespotmedia.com, a very special welcome to you. The Jamaica Fire Brigade is reporting a dramatic increase in the number of fire calls between January and June when compared with the same period in 2018. At a meeting held at the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, it was revealed that the St. Catherine recorded the third highest number of bushfires. We have the details in this report.
The latest data from the Jamaica Fire Brigade show that bushfires across the island are up 31.3% this year compared to last year. The total number of bushfires between January and June of this year is 3,392, with June recording the most, 823. Of those 823 fires, 116 of them were reported in St. Catherine.
Spanish Town received a total of 8 calls, to which 21 were genuine calls. 8 were malicious fires alarm. We had 49 bushfires and 6 special service. For Waterford, they received a total of 30 calls, to which 5 were genuine, 8 were malicious fires alarm, and 17 were bushfires.
District Officer at the St. Catherine Fire Department, Neville Beckford, detailed the number further, indicating that Linstead recorded 17 bushfires and Old Harbour 37. The estimated loss in these fires is more than $30 million.
In all of that, the estimated risk was $106,930,000. At an estimated loss of $35,300,000, and the estimated amount that was saved is $91,630,000.
He was speaking at a recent St. Catherine Municipal Corporation meeting. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
There is more support for calls to stop all plans for mining in sections of the Cockpit country. It comes from the Trelawney Lay Magistrates Association, whose president has added his voice to the debate.
The Trelawney Lay Magistrates Association president, Kenneth Grant, was part of Monday's protest in Albertown, Trelawney. President Grant, who is also a business operator in Albertown, says he wants his voice heard on the issue.
I am totally against any form of bauxite mining in the Cockpit country. And I'm prepared to do whatever it takes within the boundaries of the law to try and prevent this.
He joins environmentalists, including the Jamaica Environment Trust, JET, who are raising concerns about plans to do mining in communities they say fall within the boundaries of the Cockpit country.
There has been a mining lease granted by the government of Jamaica. It's SML Special Mining Lease 173, and it covers a very large area from all the way in Gibraltar, coming all the way over this side to Ulster Spring in Trelawney. And that's the mining lease that we're most concerned about now. It's already been granted, so mining has been approved. It's undergoing an environmental impact assessment, but frankly, the risk to the area, risk to the environment from mining is far too great. The risk to these communities is far too great to allow mining in this part of the Cockpit country.
In a recent tour of sections of the Cockpit country, Prime Minister Andrew Holness indicated that no mining was taking place within the proposed boundaries. However, residents say they are not satisfied with those boundaries.
These communities are Cockpit country. As you can see, the turnout today is wonderful. You can see how many communities are represented here today, and they are adamant, and they have always been adamant for over a decade that they don't want mining in their communities.
And I would like to send a message to the government and to the Prime Minister. Please do not consider any form of bauxite mining in the Cockpit country to destroy our flora and our fauna, to make people's lives miserable and uncomfortable and have to relocate. We provide 40% of the fresh water that Jamaica needs. How can we destroy this source?
A warning to the government this afternoon from President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, to be careful with food importation. It follows a claim that there has been unnecessary importation of agricultural produce. The details in this report.
We need to be careful. A stern warning from the Jamaica Agricultural Society JAS President Lenworth Fulton. Mr. Fulton says poultry farmers are finding it difficult with the importation of certain meat. This, he believes, is as a result of what he describes as the unnecessary importation of agricultural produce taking place at this time.
Right now, the small poultry farmers, which constitute 40% of the poultry business, and they're mostly women, probably 65-70% women, and rural and urban farmers, have been hit hard with the importation of chicken back and neck, and therefore you are now affecting even the large companies, which part of their business is to sell baby chicken and manufacture feed. So we need to be careful.
Mr. Fulton acknowledges that there might be a need to import some items given the challenges of the dry period. However, he says continued importation of things like poultry could make it harder to source foreign currency to buy the necessary food items.
The import bill is up to 9.3 billion now, and to continue to look at import now, it is going to create great problem. And with the foreign exchange problem we're having, the Bank of Jamaica have intervened actually weekly now into the foreign exchange market, which tells that there's some problem there as well. We just can't find the foreign exchange to do what we want to do, and it is creating havoc. So, and they are useless import. They are import that shouldn't be.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the summary of his statutory declaration should be published this week. There has been pressure for the Integrity Commission to release the report on his filings following indications about 2 months ago that he was yet to complete the process. Yesterday, we sought an update from the Prime Minister at a function in Kingston, but he offered very little information, only saying it should be published this week. The details of the earnings and other financial information for opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips were published in the Gleaner on Saturday. The newspaper report said checks up to that time revealed that the report on Dr. Phillips' declaration was the only one available at the government's printing office. The parliamentary opposition and local anti-corruption watchdog National Integrity Action have been calling for the publication of both reports. And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news. The People's National Party, PNP, is adamant that it would still be ready should the government decide to call a snap general election. The assurance from the PNP comes despite an internal presidential contest scheduled for September 7. Even though there is a perceived division in the PNP, General Secretary Julian Robinson says the internal contest has not derailed the party's readiness.
The party has had internal contests. We have been able to bounce back well from them, and I don't see this being any different. So we are prepared. We have our candidates in place. We have been doing the political work leading up to this contest, and we continue to do so. At the NEC on Sunday, we'll indicate the candidates that we have in place at this stage, which to me would be significant in terms of the numbers of persons, particularly new and young candidates in place. So we're doing the work in preparation for an election, and the contest has not derailed our efforts to be ready as a political party.
That was also the sentiment of PNP presidential aspirant Peter Bunting in a recent interview with TVJ News.
The party come together before, after the 2008 challenge of Portia Simpson-Miller by Dr. Phillips, and we won the 2011 general election by a landslide. So I am not too concerned that we won't be able to bring things together very quickly. With a strong mandate from the delegates, any leader will be in a better position to go forward into a general election.
Chief Executive Officer of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, Rosalie Gage Gray, says her agency will be conducting a survey and taking measures to target at-risk youths in need of intervention. She was speaking at a recent Jamaicans for Justice seminar held at the University of the West Indies headquarters.
We believe that there needs to be a national first responder system. It can't be just the police or, there needs to be a coordinated response to emergency involving children and others within the country, right across.
There will be select areas involved in the survey to target these at-risk youths.
We get a lot of calls when people see children on the street, and we have been going to the regular spots, Ligony, Half a Tree, Dunrobin, and Constant Spring, Waterloo, Hope Road, 3 Miles, you know, those areas. And I remember once stopping at 3 Miles, and a little boy came to the car, and I pulled out my ID, and I said, "You're not supposed to be on the road." And he read it, obviously, and he says, "Your name, sir?" and ran off. So obviously they know and know their rights too. But
the St. Anne Municipal Corporation could find itself in a legal battle if this wall at the St. Anne Infirmary, located in Prairie, is not fixed as a matter of urgency. TVJ News understands that the wall collapsed some 2 years ago following a motor vehicle crash, but since then, nothing has been done. It's now creating an even greater issue, a breach of security for the residents at the infirmary, as they can walk over the wall and into the path of vehicles on the busy thoroughfare along the north coast. Councillor for the St. Anne's Bay Division, Dallas Dickinson, says it's not that he hasn't made representation, but the insurance is the problem.
The insurance are the ones who are holding up the whole matter there. But I have learned recently that there's some in-house discussion between the insurance and the council. And I'm well aware that the problem that are there is that it needs to be properly sorted out as quickly as possible, because we have the inmates and we are the ones who will be hold accountable for the inmates if anything goes wrong there.
As for plans to relocate the infirmary, Mr. Dickinson says that's a no-no.
For the first thing, we have not identified lands anywhere around as yet. And for the infirmary to move, you have to have very suitable land. You have to have proper infrastructure, road, water, light, and the various amenities that goes with it. So for now, the removal of the infirmary is a no-no for the time being.
The councillor says another factor is the proximity to the hospital. He says based on some of the illnesses that the wards of the infirmary have, it would be detrimental to have the infirmary far away. A gruesome motor vehicle collision claimed the life of a biker in Portland last night. Upset at the nature of the crash, residents of the area took to the street in protest. We have more in this report.
Streets lined with bloody footprints and scattered debris combined with these chants. It's the scene of a fatal crash in Orange Bay, Portland last night. TVJ News understands that the deceased, 30-year-old Melvin Thomas, was thrown some 35 meters when his motorcycle collided with an oncoming vehicle. Mr. Thomas died on his way to hospital. His sister explained what she heard of the incident.
He was riding to the river because Portland, Orange Bay is lack of water. He's a barber, he's no criminal. Me I tell her that, I tell her Jamaica from the bottom of my heart. As him ride down on a Marsha bar, that is a place on the left going down.
Residents are calling for a blood alcohol test to be carried out on the driver of the motor vehicle. They claim that the driver had been drinking at a bar since early afternoon and then upon leaving collided with Mr. Thomas's motorcycle.
To the lick my brother, me I tell you. And then him I go say, people are going to say, the police are going to say, man, if he dead for man live. And him are going to say, him see the bike, but him a try to force the bike. We have to ramp with people's life. We have to play with people's life. We want justice. Murder! I'm a brother, I'm a father, I'm my uncle, I'm a baby father, everything in a one. My last I soul, look on my leg, 1 foot me have. I pay me have 3 penny. How me I manage this? Jamaican people will need justice!
The investigation is still underway. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
A taxi man was killed yesterday evening in Southfield, St. Elizabeth, while working at the taxi stand at the Southfield Square in the parish. He has been identified as 36-year-old Damain Day. According to witnesses, 2 bikers approached Mr. Day's vehicle and shot him 3 times before making a hasty escape. Mr. Day died on the spot. The St. Elizabeth police are currently investigating the murder. Mr. Day's killing is the 3rd murder in the parish in the space of 3 days. We go on to news in sports. Confidence is high in the Reggae Girls camp as they are aiming to secure a medal at the Pan American Games in Lima, Peru later this month. As Simon Preston reports, the Games will also serve as preparation for the Olympic Games qualifiers later this year.
After gracing the international stage at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup in France, the Reggae Girls will now be heading to Lima, Peru for their first appearance at the Pan Am Games since 2007. 11 out of the 23 squad members from the World Cup will be heading to South America for the Pan Ams. The Jamaicans will face Mexico, Colombia and Paraguay in the group stages of the tournament. The top 2 teams from the group stages will advance to the semi-finals of the competition.
I think we'll do well. We're definitely ready to represent Jamaica and perform well. We are going to obviously go in with the mindset that we're going to win. We're here to play games. We're here to progress and get better. So that's what we need to do.
Training have been good. We've been working really hard and I think we can do well at this tournament.
Schneider adds that the experience on the world stage also gives the team a boost.
Well, being on the biggest stage and going against the best teams obviously gives us really good experience. Like we have to push ourselves then on the biggest stage and we just have to continue doing the same thing now.
With the Pan Am Games and the Olympic qualifiers on the horizon, head coach Hugh Menzies is delighted with regular competitive games for the team.
It gives us an opportunity not only to prepare for the Olympics but sustain our program, which is important, especially after the World Cup, to identify another crop of players, because we want to sustain this. In the next 4 years, we want to be going to wherever that World Cup is. We want to be there.
Forward Trudy Carter has picked up an injury and coach Menzies is looking to utility player Lauren Silva to fill the spot.
Yeah, Trudy is still struggling a little bit from her knee, and we didn't want to take the risk. She has a big career ahead of her, and obviously, Lauren's a much, well representative of our country before, so we figured that we'd bring in a little bit more experience to the table, and because we do have a young crop of girls.
Their first game will be against Mexico on July 28 at the Estadio Universidad San Marcos. Simon Preston reporting for TVJ Sports.
And that's the midday news. I'm Herman Green. Remember, primetime news is at 7. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.